So welcome everyone here, all of our candidates. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to all the attendees, everybody watching tonight and beyond as this gets shared out later. I'm Joel Wiebe. I'm the Government Relations Coordinator here at the Peterborough and the Kawartha's Chamber of Commerce. All of the candidates were invited to our meeting tonight, and we want to thank our friends over at the Peterborough and the Kawartha's Home Builders Association for their partnership here. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that though we are meeting virtually, the land we are speaking from and discussing tonight is the Treaty 20 Mccauley territory and the traditional territory of the Mccauley and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island First Nations. We offer our gratitude to the First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. So this week, the Peterborough and the Kawartha's Chamber of Commerce has been hosting 8 township debates, all of Peterborough County. This is lucky number 8, I guess. And the other 7, well, 6 of them are already posted up on our website, pkchamber.ca. And the 2 from tonight, this one, North Kawartha, and as well Selwyn Township, will be posted up there as well, hopefully tomorrow sometime. So tonight, the speaking order has been drawn at random. First up will be Colin Mccauley, Mike Del Mastro, Roman Mizuk, John Vavatsis, Jim O'Shea, and Joe Mccauley. And so we'll rotate that speaking order. So Colin will be the first to do his introduction. First question will go to Mike, and so on as we go through that list. So candidates will have a minute and a half for their opening statements, and then we'll get into questions. You've got a minute for each. There is an option for 30-second rebuttals. Those will be at the discretion of the moderator. And as the end of the night approaches, we will you'll have a chance to make a minute and a half for your closing remarks. For timekeeping tonight, you'll see a box that appears that says timer. We'll have a stop clock there. And as your time, if you run over time, I've got a little bell as another reminder that it's time to wrap up. And I'd just ask whatever statement or thought you're on to just try and wrap that up as quick as you can. So that in the best interest of getting through as many questions as we can tonight, we'll be able to stay on track. So we've got a long list of questions that come from local community, local businesses, and our team here at the Chamber. If people in attendance, if you have questions for the candidates, please submit those through the Q&A function, and we'll do as best as we can to get through as many as we can tonight, keeping in mind our focus is on business issues. So with that said, we'll get into our opening remarks. Colin, a minute and a half.
Thank you. I am Colin Mccauley, your Burley and Strother councillor seeking re-election, looking to build upon the successes of our past to meet the needs of our today and the future. My strategy to help improve our community is simple: promote, provide, protect. Promote a healthy economic environment. Provide an exceptional human environment. Protect the physical environment. Promote our economy by addressing labor and housing shortages by preparing the township's 60-acre lot on Balmer Road for mixed-use development. Provide an exceptional human environment by creating a more pedestrian-friendly downtown core and returning in-person urgent medical care to the community. Protect our physical environment through targeted investments in the prevention and management of invasive species such as starry stonewort and non-native Phragmites. I am proud of my accomplishments as a first-term councillor. I initiated the introduction of a waterless boat cleaning station grant, protecting our environment. I attracted the necessary attention for the approval of community safety zones on Highway 28 for the first time in 80-kilometer-an-hour zones, providing a better living environment. I found the path to North Kawartha's first ever 0% municipal tax increase in 2021, keeping money in your pockets, promoting investment in our local economy. I look forward to showing you in the next 90 minutes why I am the candidate to lead Burley and Strother forward.
All right, thanks so much. Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Del Mastro, and I'm running for councillor in Ward 2, North Kawartha. The reason why I signed up to run for councillor is I have a lot of business experience in Peterborough and stuff, and I retired from there last year, so I have the time to dedicate for it. And I have a lot of experience where it will count going forward. I've got dedicated and proven leadership. I'm qualified for the job, and I will bring fresh ideas and a fresh voice to council. And I believe it needs that. It needs some new blood to get things moving in the right direction. And some of my goals in the first term is going to be tax stabilization, to really look at finding efficiencies in the budget and work towards having really good value for the tax dollars. I believe we need to have protect the lakes and the shorelines with a balanced development approach and regulations that make sense and enforce them properly. I want to improve engagement in North Kawartha. I think there's a divide between the south and the north and the middle, which is the town of Apsley. So I'd like to reach out to those people. I believe that politics is about people, and we need to do a lot of talking, finding out what the issues are, and bring them forward to council and deal with them correctly. Thank you.
Thanks. Roman.
Thank you, Joel. As you know, my name is Roman Mizik. I was born and raised in Toronto. In 1984, I graduated from the University of Toronto with a Bachelor of Science in Forestry. I moved up to the Apsley area on Long Lake Road in 1988 and started a small business, which I run and own to this day. Since that time, I've sat on numerous committees of council, including Committee of the Whole and the Community Planning Committee, which piqued my interest in politics. I've also enjoyed volunteering for the children's activities and still do, such as the CLPOA Fishing Derby. I've been the councilor at large for the last 8 years, and with your support, I hope to make it 12.
Right, thanks. John.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out to host this, Joel, and to all those that are attending, welcome. My name is John Vavatsis. I'm running for councillor in Ward 1 in Chandos. Why am I running? I believe that the community needs to move forward in many, many ways, with specific regard to housing that needs to be at the forefront of any type of economic development that Apsley and the surrounding communities, including the south, the middle, and the north, would all benefit from. We need to take a long, hard look at the different avenues that we are able to explore to be able to develop those lands that are available to us, whether it's from a sale process, partnering with people. That housing will also bring labor, because the people, there's lots of businesses that are located within the greater North Kawartha area that require skilled labor that we're not able to provide what we call affordable or decent housing to. Not lost in that should be our attention to seniors, and any type of development should take into account some sort of a senior advantage with regards to providing some sort of housing on main floors of any type of buildings that we're constructing, whether they be high rise, low rise, multi-unit dwellings of that nature. There's lots that I'd like to do with regards to the environment, environmental stewardship, improvement of senior care, always providing timely responses to inquiries from our constituents. Council accountability, managing tax dollars is always very important, and finding solutions to what we're currently experiencing with Pro Valley so that business development can proceed.
All right, thanks. Jim.
Yes, I'll start off with my personal background. I presently live in North Kawartha, where I've owned a residence for 49 years. I have a degree that specialized in soil science, geomorphology, climate change, and glaciation, all of which I've found to be very valuable information while my term on council. I was president of Chandos Lake Property Owners Association for 14 years. I did the advertising and publishing editor for the CLPOA yearbooks and newsletters for 18 years, 3 years co-chair of the North Kawartha Lakes Cottage Association, recipient of the Solicitor General's Ontario Award for Crime Prevention, and the Peterborough County Environmental Award. I am presently working with the North Kawartha Shoreline Preservation and Restoration Committee and have recently had a motion accepted to have a bylaw passed for the shoreline preservation and restoration. Property taxes, very quickly. It's a hot issue. When I was out on Ward 1 doing calls, it was always mentioned. However, I was always happy to let the property owners know that our council does its best to keep the taxes low, and we are presently the second lowest tax rate in the county. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Joe.
Hi, my name's Joe Mccauley. I'm seeking election in Ward 2 of North Kawartha Township. I was born and raised in Woodview. I'd really want to make steps and strides to make our council whole again. There is quite a divide between Ward 1 and Ward 2, especially in the Woodview area. They seem to feel forgotten, and I want to get rid of that for them. I also want to be the voice that won't go away on council. So if you have an issue that you want brought up to council, I'm going to do my best to bring it up and not take no for an answer until we get a final concrete answer. I want to work on behalf of the residents, not just for my own agenda. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. So that concludes our opening statements, and we'll move on to our first question. So this one's a bit more broad and visionary, and I know you've only got a minute, and some of you can, I'm sure, talk for a lot longer on this, but how do you see your township growing and developing over the next 4 years? Mike, you're up.
Well, yeah, I think that housing is a huge issue in this area, and I'm not just exactly sure how we can solve the problem, because we hear a lot of talk about affordable housing, but what is affordable housing? I mean, the cost of construction is really big right now. So we got to find ways, as far as that there's a lot of land owned by the township that could be developed. And that would be a good start to at least put that land out there available to developers to use, and make some housing for some people to come to here. Because actually what we really need is labor in the area to make it grow. We need more people in the workforce. And to have people in the workforce, they got to have somewhere to live. And that is a key issue here. There isn't no land really available to buy, lease, or otherwise. You can't. There's no apartments to rent or houses to rent. So we have to fix the housing shortage to grow the town.
All right, thanks. Roman.
Well, can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can repeat any question as many times as you want tonight. How do you see your township growing and developing over the next 4 years?
Well, in the last term of council I sat on, we have hired a EDO, Economic Development Officer, who came up with a strategic plan to not only retain businesses here, but attract businesses. So council has been taking a look at his initiatives and his ideas, and we're taking advice from him, but of course we have the final say in our vote. So I'm going to take it to the point that I'm going to rely on our EDO to give us some advice, and we take it from there.
All right, thanks. John.
Well, look, infrastructure for the township is going to be vital, and that starts with housing. We need to find a way to free up those lands that are available to developers, that we can make available to developers. And once we've established that, then what I believe will be the offshoot of that is that you'll have economic development that will drive people to live in the area, put roots down in the area. At the same time, I think it's very important that we use the grand opening now of Stayers, especially within the ward where I'm running, that can be an economic sort of stimulator to everything that goes on within that community in the down, if you want to call it the Main Street or downtown core. We need to explore other opportunities where they exist outside of Apsley, within North Kawartha, where we see the benefit to use different models to construct some different types of housing. But the key initiative is housing, labor, and then a number of other issues that come off of that. But those are the real spurs that will develop the economy for the entire report.
All right, thanks. Jim?
Yeah. To get the community growing is actually an issue that involves a whole lot of different processes. I think the first thing we got to deal with is Crow Valley. They're stopping a lot of growth on a regular basis. Then after that, we might identify areas best suited for different types of development. The township has been mapped out for different areas around the various communities for potential development. We want to ensure a high level of communication is available, and Rogers is presently doing that. One of the things we need are four-season businesses, not just businesses that come for the summer and then leave. Where possible, we need to reduce the number of regulations that are required for development to occur. And we need to ensure that the building department is well staffed. I could keep going, but I've run out of time.
Thanks, Jim. Joe?
So to speak to the point of housing, yes, it's very important to have housing for labor to come up to the area, but we also have to look at what that's going to cost as a township as well, as building more housing could increase taxes and make people slightly upset, but we need the people so we can grow and become a bigger and more wholesome township. That's all I got.
All right, thanks. Colin?
Yeah, so I too would actually like to touch on housing, because I think that is the most important thing that needs to be addressed in our community. I don't think the township should be responsible for the building of it. So there should be no increase to taxes. And in fact, if we promote development, that increases the tax rate base, bringing more dollars into the township budget. But I'd really like to focus on a diversification of housing. We have lots of single family detached homes, and the township slot on Balmer, which I've already included in my platform, provides a great opportunity for us to try and make sure or sort of stipulate that there's a variety of housing options on that lot. So people of all ages would be able to sort of find a house that meets their needs.
All right, thanks so much. So a couple of you have already touched on this, but here is a question that came submitted ahead of time for this debate. Given North Kawartha's remote location, what will you do to help businesses find staff willing to work in our location, particularly when there's no housing available for prospective employees? And Roman, you're up first on this one.
Great.
Again, I can repeat the question as many times as you like tonight.
One more time. Help find
Yeah, sure.
staff.
Yeah. So given North Kawartha's remote location, what will you do to help businesses find staff willing to work in our location, particularly when there is no housing available for prospective employees?
Well, the only thing we could do is promote the area to, say, summer students. See, we're a very seasonal business up here. 6 months of the year, you have to make 12 months salary. Everybody goes crazy trying to get labor. We got to promote and educate people south of us, say Peterborough, Lakefield, that there's an opportunity up here for business. So my answer to that question would be to promote ourselves to the students and labor force south of us.
All right, thanks. John?
Again, we need to think outside of the box, especially if we're going to be really focusing on developing of housing. So those people that are coming up here, the developers that are bringing employees up here to work, we need to look at all kinds of different options from a housing perspective, whether it be trailers that are set up to house these people during certain periods of time, or whether we appeal to people that are living within a community to provide some sort of housing options. There should be nothing that we shouldn't look at with regards to temporary housing that allows us to get the skilled trades people up here that aren't having to drive an hour or 2 hours. If there's nobody that's available in Peterborough or Bancroft, then we need to look outside of that particular circle, look east, west, and find the opportunities that might exist within the labor force to be able to attract them to come here. And then I think that the other process is working with the developers that have access to a very viable labor force. A lot of these developers have their own sort of labor people that work within the projects that they do. So we need to look outside the box. There's no simple answer here, but we need to explore every avenue that's available to us to be able to staff these positions.
All right, thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I think the one thing we've got to do is provide things for people to come up here. We've got to increase the tourism opportunities. And we've got to advertise about our community and what's happening. If people don't know what's occurring, then they're unlikely to arrive here. And we need to advertise the various jobs. However, I'm going to say it's been awfully hard to fill jobs this past year. One of the major things is Kawartha Parks, the Highlands Park. Not a whole lot of people are using it yet, and we got to promote that. We've got to advertise for active transportation policies. So people might come up here and ride their bikes and so forth and see opportunities and maybe want to work up here. Advertising such as Creekside Festival brought a lot of people. There's no reason why we can't bring a lot more up, and then open up jobs for them, and hopefully we'll get some opportunities for it. ATV use, the county roads should be used for that, and we don't have that yet. I better stop.
Thanks, Jim. Joe?
It's a great question, Joel. It's hard enough to find people that want to work, but once they get up here and want to work, you're right, we have to find some housing or living accommodations for them. We do have one motel in Apsley, but maybe that's another way to look at it. If we grow the township with another hotel for temporary workforces or employees, that might be an avenue we look into. But for right now, it comes back to needing more housing and property. So, thanks.
All right, thanks. Colin?
There's going to be a certain amount of repetition here with housing in questions, but there's been certainly a repetition in that coming up when talking to people in the community and going door to door. Council's already started to try to address this by approving secondary dwellings and sort of providing landowners a opportunity to rent a unit off of their property. But again, the mixed use development on Balmer would certainly increase the housing capacity of the township and help address that labor shortage. But we also do need to make sure that we're sort of keeping in close touch with our local schools. We're really fortunate to have Trent University, Fleming, these institutions that are really active in working with communities. And we need to make sure that we remain in touch with them so the students are considering coming to North Kawartha after graduating.
All right, thanks. Mike?
Yeah, that is a tough question. I actually employ about 8 people in North Kawartha, and I've been very lucky. Got some great employees, and I think there's a lot of good, hardworking people in North Kawartha, and I think we need to promote the lifestyle here. It's a very appealing lifestyle to bring people here to want to live here and work. Once they're here, they'll never leave. I've had to leave a couple of times in the 35 years for work purposes, but I always come back, and I always have kept property here in North Kawartha. Once you get here, it's a place you never want to leave. So we do have to work on that, work on places for people to live, and the jobs are already here. Businesses will grow. There will be more and more businesses if there's people to work. Then I'm confident that this area is going to grow hugely, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a restaurant in Apsley, more lodging in Apsley. We do have to look at some ways to increase places for people to stay, like maybe encourage hip camp and different things like that.
Mike?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it comes down to places for people to stay, and we got to get more of those.
All right. Thanks so much. So we're going to move on to our next question. John, you'll be the first one to answer this, and this one comes in through the Q&A. So again, anybody watching tonight, if you have questions for the candidates, I certainly have more than enough material to get us through tonight and probably a couple more nights if we wanted to, but I do welcome the questions live, so use the Q&A function. So this question is, do you see opportunities to improve the operation of the medical center? For example, attracting a nurse practitioner or setting aside a day as a walk-in clinic? So, John, you're up.
I am 100% convinced that not only can we improve it, but it's a must for us to improve it. For all the discussion that we've had on housing and labor and bringing business to North Kawartha, that in itself will demand that we have people that are there to be able to look after and care for people that live and work within the community. So I think it's going to be paramount that we look at trying to establish not only nurse practitioners or additional medical employees that work within the field, but also look at what we call a sort of a 24-hour care facility that can be situated somewhere within North Kawartha and Apsley or whatever it may be, because that in itself provides impetus for families to look at considering this particular location for somewhere to live. If you don't have the infrastructure, it's not going to be a great place to come to. People are looking for some of the amenities that are required in order to look after and care for their families going forward.
All right, thanks. Jim.
Yes, this is a question that came up several times while I was doing my campaign in Ward 1. And the question was, can we get a full-time doctor that's there all the time? And my answer basically was, I can't control that. We can request, but that's about it. People are reasonably happy with our medical services, but they also recognize that the services that we are providing could be improved. Medical practitioner definitely would be a useful asset for our community, especially when the doctor isn't there. And that's about it.
All right, thanks. Joe.
I agree with the question as well. We need to have access to medical care, and I know Colin will touch on this as well. But personally, I've had no issue. Anytime I need to see the doctor, I get in to see the doctor. But I do know there are people out there that have issues, and if there's a way we could get another nurse practitioner in, that'd be awesome, and that would open up the idea of having a walk-in clinic. So for people that just need to get in for a cold or something simple, the walk-in clinic would be the best thing to do. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Colin.
Yeah, so I think it would be dangerous to be getting too aggressive with sort of a family doctor that we need to sort of keep in the area. So I wouldn't want to become too involved with his personal business, but not everyone knows this. There's 3 tenants of the North Kawartha Health Center: Dr. Wageman, the dentist; Dr. Hassan, the family doctor; and the Peterborough Family Health Team. Peterborough Family Health Team is an organization that we should certainly be working with to try to attract urgent care services to that building. The billables for a what's called a emergency room equivalent are quite attractive, and working at the health center and showing up half an hour before the last urgent care clinic opened and having 10 people in line before I got there, I know the demand is there, that the Peterborough Family Health Team could justify it financially.
All right, thank you. Mike.
Yeah, I think it's crucial that we get another nurse practitioner in Apsley, because I know a lot of people that visited the last one that was here and absolutely raved about the service. And we're just as happy to have a nurse practitioner as having a doctor to lean on. So I think that's an area we really got to look into, getting another nurse practitioner. That would definitely help. And we also need to look at possibly developing more accommodations, like Spruce Corners. That's a real asset to the community. It allows people that need assisted living to stay in their community here. And there's right now that there's only 8 residents in that building. So I think we could triple the size of that and either add on to that building or build more of them. I think that would be a real asset to the community.
All right, thank you. Roman.
Let me start off by saying that we're fortunate enough to have a medical center and a GP in our town. I was watching last night's meeting at HPM. They're still searching for a doctor. We're fortunate to have one. Doctor can't be in the office all the time because the COVID parameters, and it's not full-time. Through consultations with council, I found out that there have been 3 nurse practitioners have come and gone from a medical center, and there seems to be a disconnect between the doctor and the nurse practitioner. So we got to ask the doctor what the problem is to solve the problem so that we can get a full-time nurse practitioner in to help him out with his caseload.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to our next question here. So Jim, you'll be the first one up to answer this. In some parts of the township, short-term rentals are a growing point of conflict and controversy, but also present opportunities. What is your plan for the growth of short-term rentals? Jim.
Yeah, I've given that some thought previously. Where is it? Here we are. Sorry, I lost my note. Yeah, so basically, cottagers have always rented out their cottages, whether it be for a week, 2 weeks, or a month even. But that has been the culture of cottaging, I believe, in Ontario. But everything has been kind of disrupted now with short-term rentals or Airbnbs. I heard more complaints about those situations than anything else while I was running around the lake. However, I did bring forward a motion to council to develop a bylaw regarding short-term rentals, and hopefully in our next term, it will be concluded as a bylaw.
Right, thanks. Joe.
I've heard short-term rentals are a problem. I don't live on the lake, but I know a lot of cottagers that have had this issue. And I know we spoke to it on Saturday as well. The hardest part is, as a township right now, we don't have enough bylaw enforcement officers to enforce said bylaws. So we would have to look into maybe getting a weekend bylaw officer that could go and investigate these complaints, as well as if there's a bylaw on the table, that's great, but is it all encompassing? Because the big lakes are going to be rented different than the small lakes. And like our question last weekend, we have to make sure that it doesn't take away from the small lakes or regulate them, for lack of a better term, to death. Thanks.
All right, Colin.
That's right. It is very important that some restrictions and regulations be put on short-term rentals in order to protect our cottaging environment. There has to be a delicate balance between property owners' rights and neighbors' rights. Oftentimes, these really bad stories that we're hearing, they're the exception, not the rule. So we don't want to sort of squash what has been a renewable income source for residents in renting their cottages, but we do need to make sure that it's done in a way that respects neighbors. We also need to make sure that sort of our recent increases in property values that could be associated with the Airbnb-ifying of North Kawartha don't get lost with any regulation. I think we can look to Prince Edward County, who has had success using their regulations and the fines received from them to pay for the bylaw enforcement, and look at a licensing system like London, where there's a demerit point system and you can eventually lose your license depending on poor behavior.
All right, thanks. Mike.
Yeah, I think it is definitely an issue. I'm hearing a lot of this talking to people, cottagers. So they definitely want something done about it. The next council is going to have to deal with it for sure and figure out how to pay for it and enforce it. And I hopefully it isn't too intrusive, because you don't want to discourage rental. I mean, it is economic for the area. It brings people in. They're spending money in all of the local businesses when they're in town. And yeah, I mean, sometimes they may be enjoying the cottage life a little too much at 2 a.m. But definitely, if we can figure out a way to pay for the enforcement, then I'd be all for it, just to keep the peace on the lake. Absolutely.
All right, thanks. Roman.
I've said this over and over a couple of times now at the ACM and during council meetings. I don't have a problem with short-term rentals for people to try to recoup their high land taxes, to rent to their cousins, family, friends who have, quote, cottage etiquette. It's the problem I have is with absentee landlords that never come to the property, rent to whomever, and let them do whatever they want, the $500 to $750 a night. That has to be controlled somehow, because it is disrupting cottage life for the people that use it on a long-term basis. So, like I said before, there's a number of regulations and bylaws made up from different townships. We should study them, incorporate those into bylaw that suits North Kawartha.
All right, thanks. John.
Okay, I have a different viewpoint on this. Look, I'm really not for regulating short-term rentals for responsible owners. The issues at hand are developed by a select few irresponsible owners that don't look after their properties. They don't manage their properties, that being corporations that may be buying up particular land and using those properties just as select Airbnbs. I rent my property, full disclosure, but I have very strict regulations. I don't rent during the months of June 23rd to Labor Day for less than 7 days. I rent for a significant amount of money, as all properties can rent for. If you're renting for a weekend from Friday to Sunday and you're renting it to people, let's say, that are under 30, you're looking for a problem. That's where the problems exist. Short-term rentals, we need to find, quote unquote, what is a short-term rental? Is 7 days short? Is 2 days short? I think it's more the weekend. Enforcement, that's a big area to enforce. But if you're going to have enforcement officers, you're going to need more than one. So you better be prepared to put some money behind it.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next question. Joe, you'll be first up to answer this one. And this was submitted through our website. So thanks everyone that submitted questions for this. The rising incidence of natural shoreline damage requires that shorelines be targeted, ecological, and watershed functional zone. How would you propose protecting existing natural shorelines and reestablish shorelines that have been totally landscaped? And again, I can repeat these questions at any time. Joe, you're up.
Thanks. I have to try and figure out how to answer this because I don't do anything on the water. I think keeping natural shorelines as intact as possible is the best thing we could do. However, if we have to landscape it, the best thing I can think of is go through the right channels. So sit down with not only the township, but Department of Oceans and Fisheries, and if you have to, Transport Canada if you're near a channel, because there's always going to be constant wakes that'll erode your shoreline. And sit down, see what they have to say, because they've been dealing with this all along, so they might be able to give you the best direction and where to go, and then bring that back to council and or the building department, and we may be able to put some measures in place on council going forward.
All right, thanks. Colin.
Yeah, so the natural wealth of our township is really quite amazing. That shoreline ecosystem is very delicate, and 90% of our aquatic species are born, fed, and raised there. So it's sort of the nurseries of our lakes. Common sense application of our existing bylaws and promotion of naturalized shorelines is a must for council. One thing I would like to see right now, it's simply being recommended by township staff that an applicant obtain a copy of Restoring Healthy Shorelines, which is a comprehensive document about how they can responsibly develop a shoreline. And I think that should be included with every application.
All right, thanks. Mike?
I think it's crucial to protect the shorelines, absolutely crucial. Without the lakes here, we really don't have any reason for anybody to come to North Kawartha. So I think moving forward, we need to come up with some simple common sense regulations when it comes to developing. It's hard to get people that have already armor stoned their whole shoreline to change that. But if somebody is planning to make a change, an addition, or build a new cottage, there needs to be a percentage of the shoreline that that has to be left in its natural form. And it might be 40% or 60% of the shoreline has to be left natural shoreline, and encourage people that have cleared their shorelines out to let a percentage of it to grow back into nature. It doesn't look bad, it looks great, and it's a lot better for the fish habitat and the lake. And we really do need to protect the lakes.
All right, thanks. Roman?
If it wasn't for the quality of our lakes and forests here, we wouldn't have to be talking about economic development or housing opportunities, because nobody would come up here. If our lakes were like Lake Scugog, where you can walk across them on the weeds because of the nutrients flowing in there, because the urbanization of the shoreline, we wouldn't be talking about this. So the priority to me is keeping our lakes and forests healthy. And to do that, I always talk about people's property rights, people that already urbanized their shores and have grass coming down to the rock you're talking about, Mike, Armor Rock, that has to be discouraged.
Yeah.
For redevelopment, I think we should come up with a bylaw where 75% of the shoreline has to remain natural, 25% be opened up to get at your dock and have a view of the lake. The older ones that have already been urbanized, people should be more than just the brochure that we've been putting out. They have to be educated to the assets and the good things that can happen by naturalizing the shorelines. We got to keep them natural. That's what brought the people up here. It'll keep bringing the people up here.
Absolutely.
I'm on mute. John, you're up.
The lake health is vital to the entire North Kawartha community, not just where I am, but throughout many of the lakes that exist throughout the township. I think what we have to look at is, we talked about, or many have talked about, the invasive species and all of that. So, I mean, there are instances where people have what we call severe erosion of their shoreline, where that maybe some development can take that out of the picture. There's not a lot of people that are doing, quote unquote, I've seen a few that come up now that are I don't want to name names of that are doing actual ecological planting of native species that actually help with the shoreline. So I think what we have to do is look at, rather than mandating a specific amount, look at each application on its own merits. We can't just paint 25%, 30%, 50%. Each individual owner has a different type of property level that they need to look at. But at the very least, we need to look at how to protect the shorelines and how to make it useful with regards to development and protecting the environment at the same time, and the lake health itself.
All right, thanks. Going to move on to our next question. Wait, sorry. No, I'm getting mixed up here. Jim, you're next. Sorry.
Yes. One of the biggest impacts actually right now is what's happening out on the water to our shorelines. We've got the bigger boats with bigger wakes traveling back and forth, and that washes the shoreline out considerably in some cases, undercuts the shoreline. So if we were able to reduce the number of heavy wave boats, we would actually be helping the shoreline. If they go really fast down the lake and don't create a lot of waves, that's not a problem. It's when they go slow and have a border behind them. You can just watch the shoreline being impacted. Also, climate change is impacting on our shores. The winds that are now hitting our lakes wash out a whole lot more than it once did. And then, of course, everything the property owners do on their own property can impact the shoreline. If they have grass, that just means the water rushes right off, wears and erodes the shoreline and so forth. So there's many different variables, and we have brought in a shoreline protection bylaw that hopefully will solve a lot of these problems.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to the next question here. So Colin, you'll be the first one up to answer. So we've had a couple of pretty specific questions. We're going to go to something where we'll see a bit more of your creativity maybe. What is something you would like to see council implement that will make local businesses more competitive?
So,
Yeah. So I know that there's a lot of different things here, but I'm looking for one specific thing that you would like to see council work on over these next 4 years. And that can go in many different directions that will make local businesses in North Kawartha more competitive.
my plan for seasonal selective parking restrictions in the downtown core of Apsley, sort of running from Hunters to Kemps along both sides of the road, gives the storefront visibility that storefronts need to sort of market themselves. We have a clothing store with a mannequin out front that you almost never see because there's a pickup truck parked in front of it. And also when there's lots of vehicles parked there and lots of traffic, it's not exactly the safest place to be walking through. So it may sort of dissuade someone from going and checking out a new business. So by providing that sort of extra operating space for businesses, the extra visibility, the extra ease of transportation for the customers, I think we can really sort of improve businesses in our local core. And when revisiting the comprehensive zoning bylaw, we must look at home occupations and modernizing that as well, because not all businesses in North Kawartha are retail.
All right, thanks. Mike.
I'd like to see North Kawartha be, the township be more in favor in promoting events to come to town. I find the special events bylaw that was done, it makes it a lot of work for an event. And I know so because I'm involved in the Creekside Music Festival, and it is a daunting task to appease all of the restrictions of the bylaw. So that needs to be looked at, and definitely find ways to make it easier and encourage people to plan more events, more functions. At one time, when I first moved here, actually, we had a lot more going on. There was a lot of dances at the arena. There was street dances in town. There was a fair board. We had a fair. Winter Carnival was a lot bigger and better. And I did hear another lady at the all candidates meeting kind of complaining about the process as well, to get a permit to have a function. So we need to look at that, ways to improve that.
All right, thanks. Roman.
Can you repeat the question again, Joel, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is something you would like to see council implement that will make local businesses more competitive?
I'm going to be honest with this one. I think that's a silly question. More competitive with whom? Our local businesses are going to compete against Costco. We're going to compete against Canadian Tire. We have businesses in town that have a one function, the Guardian drugstore, Hunters, coffee shop. What are we going to do as council to make them more competitive against another coffee shop or another drugstore? I don't think council can do anything about that. That's my answer.
Okay, John. John, you're on mute.
First, thank you. First and foremost, I think what has to be addressed is getting, quote unquote, the responsibility for Burleigh Street back. And we're talking about the Main Street core. Once you have operational control of that, one of the key things, not only to attract business, but to grow, is to attract businesses to come, is the beautification of the streetscape. You cannot have parking with cars lined up, whether parked in front of the bank or parked across the street. It just doesn't work. It's not. There should be parking that's made available behind the buildings. And once that's done, then you can look at trying to use a promote local campaign. Once you begin to attract those types of business to get into downtown core. I mean, right now you have what we call the must-haves. We need more. You need some, whether quote unquote, I've heard people talk about a restaurant, not, well, how's a restaurant going to be competitive if they don't have access to parking and they don't have people who have a storefront to walk into? So there's a lot of different things you can do. Special events obviously is very important, but development of that downtown core, I think, is very important to make it very competitive.
All right, thanks. Jim. Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, I think the first thing you've got to do if you want to have more competitive businesses is have more businesses. I agree with Roman. You're not going to have a drugstore be competitive with another drugstore if there's no other drugstore, and so forth down the line. Yeah, we've got to encourage development. In this case, in our smaller communities, even Apsley, in order to start the competitiveness. Right now it's difficult because who are they going to compete against? More or less, that's my thinking on it. I'm actually finished ahead of time.
All right, Joe.
I agree with Roman. It's kind of a silly question to have businesses compete against each other like a pharmacy against another pharmacy. And quite frankly, I don't think Apsley in itself has enough room in the downtown core to add a whole lot more businesses. I know Atchu was there and they closed because obviously they couldn't get enough foot traffic or anything. And being a business owner myself, I don't know if I would put anything in Apsley because there's not a real steady foot traffic presence there anyway, unless it's the summer. So that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Joe. Colin, I saw you had your hand up. I'll give you 30 seconds to say your rebuttal here.
So my response is just, I can't even remember everybody that said this, but bringing in businesses, competing businesses improves those businesses. Competition is what drives the improvement of businesses, drives better services for the customers. So I am certainly open to having multiples of businesses in town and would welcome it.
Yeah. Roman, I'll give you the same option. You got 30 seconds.
Same 30 seconds. This is supposed to be a debate. I'm not running against Colin, but I'll ask him this question. Bring businesses into town. Where are you going to put them? It's all taken up except for 143 Burley Street across the Legion. It's all taken up, Colin. We're going to knock down homes to put up new businesses and reduce our homing capacity.
There's plenty of commercial space available on 28, commercial space available in our bank building. There is commercial space where your sign is at Hatchu. There is plenty of opportunity in town for further business.
I like the lively debate. I'll appreciate if you wait until I call on you. Joe, you had your hand up.
Okay, that being said, Colin, between my girlfriend and I, we have 5 businesses. Where are we going to put those 5 businesses in the downtown core?
Do you want to have 5 rent checks that you have to clear? I don't think having 5 businesses means that you have to have 5 retail locations. It's very dependent on what your businesses are. I think sort of modernizing the home occupation bylaws to make it sort of more realistic and actually perhaps make it so it seems like you're not breaking them right now, having your 5 businesses would be of great benefit to the township.
Colin, I'm going to rein you in here. John had his hand up. I'm going to make that the last rebuttal here. John, you get the last word on this, and then we're going to go on to the next question. But I do appreciate the lively debate we're having here.
I don't think we can throw our hands up in the air. I mean, I think we need to explore options. One of the options that I believe would be available when and if we develop those lands that are 60 acres, we talked about mixed use development. It may not happen overnight, but we need to plan for the future. That's, I think, one of the most important things. Housing's not going to get built tomorrow. Businesses are not going to relocate tomorrow. We're talking about what the future holds for the township. Let's not work at, what's going to be opening up 3 weeks from now or this summer. Sayers is opening up. We build on that and we bring future development to the township and to the cities.
Right, thanks. Appreciate the debate on this one and welcome that again. So Mike, you'll be up first to answer this next question. And so this one has come in to us through the website. Concerns are mounting regarding safety on roads through the region, both for road users and people walking and cycling. There have been several serious incidents along Highway 28 recently. What will you do as a member of council to work with the county and the province to address these concerns and make our roads safer? Mike?
Yeah, it's been long known as the Cottage 500, Highway 28 from Peterborough up to Apsley. A lot of people are in a big hurry to get to their cottages, and obviously it makes for a lot of unsafe driving. So yeah, some of the areas where there has been a lot of crashes. I know Colin did some work in the Woodview area and got some things happening down there, and yeah, we just need maybe a little more police presence on the highway as well. At one time, this was a highway you didn't want to speed on because there was so many police between Peterborough and Apsley. There was no room for speeding. So maybe a little bit more enforcement up this way would help as well, and get that reputation back that we used to have. And because that is mostly the cause is speeding and unsafe passing is the problem. So,
All right, thanks. Roman?
Thank you. I have to echo Mike's sentiments here. When I first moved up here, it was a training center for the OPP where the new township office is right now. On the radio, they wouldn't call it Apsley, it was called Trapsley. And you did 5 kilometers over, you get pulled over. Since the implementation of these community safety zones, I haven't seen one radar being set up or a car being pulled over. I think our police services board should make this aware to the OPP and try to enforce the speed regulation a little more. I'm not saying stop everybody at 5 kilometers over the limit. But the guys that are doing 110 and 120, they should be ticketed. So we got to get in contact with the OPP to enforce the community safety zones.
All right, thank you. John?
Look, I mean, anything that can be done should be done. We need to put a significant amount of pressure and conversation with the county and with the province with regards to the speeds. Look, I was going on, what was it, 620, and I was doing, I think, 80, 85 kilometers, and I had somebody just basically pushing me to get out of the way, like move quicker. So regardless of what speed we go, people are just in a hurry. Look at 80, 90. I don't think any OPP officer is worried about 90. They're worried about 120, 130. And more importantly, they're worried about the unsafe passing, because I will guarantee you that almost if you're not going to enforce the speeds, then you're not going to have people that are going to be able to sort of abide by those type of speeds. So OPP presence is a must. And then you can look at other alternatives if that doesn't work. And not that anybody wants to talk about it, but you have, speed traps and that sort of thing with radars and that, but that's for another conversation.
All right, thanks, John. Jim? Oh, Jim, I think you're frozen at the moment here. We'll just hold on a second till rural internet.
I can fill in a little bit of time. It's okay.
I'm just gonna give Jim a second, or what we can do.
There we go.
Oh.
Yeah. Our last session of council brought in a community.
Losing you again. Here.
Okay, what's that?
We lost you again there.
You're frozen.
Maybe try turning off your video for a second and see if that
Okay.
makes it.
Our last session of council brought in a community safety zone, and I haven't really seen the police.
Losing you again.
You're frozen too now. This is the greatest fear.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The OPP used to, as Roman said, travel the roads, and you really didn't dare go over the speed limit. So I would say that's the biggest factor we need. The OPP have to come back into the game. Is that it?
Yeah, all right, thanks. Joe?
I'm going to echo everybody's sentiment that the OPP needs to be more present. I can speak to Roman's point about the community safety zones. I have seen somebody pulled over in the community safety zone living in Woodview. The other hand, or the other side of that is living in Woodview, I see all the detours because they go right by my house when the highway's closed. So I know when the highway's closed. However, first off, congratulations to Colin for the community safety zones. But now every accident that's happened since then has been on the passing lane on the hills going south of the community safety zone. So now we got to look at the passing zone and see what we can do to make them a little safer.
All right, thanks. Colin?
So I've already shown leadership when it comes to protecting our residents on Highway 28 when I wrote the letter that got our council support, county council support, and widespread media attention. They got the sort of sludge moving in the system and got our community safety zone, the first ever 80 km/h implemented. Community safety zones open up opportunity for further restrictions, but I do think enforcement actually should be the primary objective. With the community safety zone, enforcement should be more attractive as there are double the fees. So hopefully we can get more OPP in the area, but having worked with OPP, MTO, and got the necessary attention, I know that I'm the candidate that can do this because I've already shown people that I have done it. So I'm pleased to continue that effort. And if you look on my website, I have the Big Cedar business dense area included in areas to improve Highway 28 safety for.
Right, thanks so much. I've got another question in from the audience. I like it. People are, oh, sorry, Mike.
I just wanted, if I could have 30 seconds to one more comment on that speed issue. One of the things I know that does work a lot is the radar signs. And we've all seen them. You come into a little village or something and you're speeding. It shows you you're speeding. You see a red flashing light. North Kawartha actually owns one of these devices, and I haven't seen it all summer. It was set up on McFadden Road a lot in last summer and the year before, but that thing needs to be used and maybe moved around into different areas because it absolutely works, and even have more of them in the area in certain safe areas that are known to be unsafe.
All right,
They do work.
Joe, you comment there too?
To your point, Mike, there was one of those set up both north and south of Woodview for probably 3 or 4 months from April to about July. And you're right, it showed the speed and had a red flashing light and everything, but people didn't slow down. Lots of people were just going by it to see how big of a number they could put on
it. Well, it slows me down. I know that.
Interesting. All right. So our next question, Roman, you'll be the first one to answer this, and it comes in from our viewers tonight. And so Crow Valley was mentioned at the beginning of the debate as a major roadblock to property development. What is the mindset for getting the Crow Valley Conservation Authority more in line with the property development requirements set out by North Kawartha? So ideally, how can the two work together to streamline development? So
that's a great question. Couldn't wait for this one. I didn't bring it up at the ACM because I went through my notes and missed it. Anyway, the Crow Valley Conservation Authority, their major mandate, 2 mandates that we're supposed to take care of: flooding and erosion hazard control. They've overreached their mandates and are now what? Did somebody say something?
oh, sorry, if you can keep your mic on mute. Yeah, but Roman, you can keep going.
Okay, let me continue. They've overreached their mandates. and is slowing down our whole building and planning process because you can't get a building permit until the Crow Valley gives the okay that their flooding and erosion control is permitted. They're way overstepping their bounds. Like if you own a boathouse, land or water right now, it's grandfathered. You can rebuild it on the same footprint as long as it's the same size. The Crow Valley now is coming around and saying, oh no, you can't have a window on the side of it. The door has to be a certain size. It's only for motorized boats, which is baloney because in our zoning, comprehensive zoning bylaw, boathouses are for the storage of watercraft and or marine equipment. It does not say motorized watercraft. They've got to be reined in. And under Bill 229, there's an appeal process. It doesn't have to go to an actual appeal court. You can do it through the minister.
All right, Roman,
Okay,
thank you very much.
sorry.
Enjoy your passion on this subject. John, you're next.
Sorry about that. Look at Crow Valley, bottom line is they'll overstep their mandate. You cannot be the final say and to hold up to any property development based on what you feel is appropriate. Council's job is to approve the permits and the plans for development within certain properties throughout the township. It's not Crow Valley's final say that needs to be had. Crow Valley has a purpose, as we talked about. Shore erosion, flooding, and I'll just give you an example. I have a property that has a relatively steep incline. I applied to Crow Valley to do some work along the shoreline, and I just gave up after about 6 months. I just got tired of having to deal with, well, you need to do this, and then you need to do that, and you need to do that. The bottom line, they've overstepped their mandate. We need to work with the province because they provided it with the mandate. And we can't have builders that are being held up because of a boathouse that has to have a rail system because they think that the person's going to build a bunkie. If council finds a bunkie, then they tear it down. That's not what the purpose of the boathouse is. It will apply to what they have. Crow Valley needs to be reined in, bottom line.
All right, thanks, John. Jim.
I hope I don't break up on you. Anyway, I agree with John. I agree with Roman. Everything they say is correct. However, Crow Valley has so many restrictions that it's very difficult to get by those restrictions and get your building permit okayed and moved on. However, they're also in a situation now where they've got staff that are pushing every rule to the absolute limit. Even when they ask for a professional to do, let's say, a slope study, and the professional comes back and says, well, no, there's no problem there at all. They find another reason to hold things up. And so far, it's been very difficult to deal with them at all. We're running into this problem all over the lake. Yesterday, I had somebody phone about it. 3 days before, I had another person phone about it. And it just doesn't seem to help to give them guidance because Crow Valley won't listen to you. So we're just going to have to continue on this road of dealing with them as effectively as we can. And I'm delighted that our township sent a letter in, et cetera. So I'm finished.
Thanks so much. Joe.
All right, to everyone's point, if Crow Valley is being this much of, for lack of a better phrase, pain in the ass, why can't we go to the province and get something in writing that says, look, these are the 2 areas you can deal with, and other than that, you don't have a say. The township gets the final say in the building permit. If we have the final say, why can't we approve it without any of their regulations? As long as you meet their regulations, you should be approved. So I would hope to look at rectifying that situation if I got on council.
All right, thanks. Colin.
So the letter recently sent by our Mayor Carolyn is a big first step, and there's already discussion and action within the MNR. I try to keep things local in this discussion because it's what we can do, but provincial intervention really is appropriate and necessary in this situation because other conservation authorities aren't having these issues. whether it's a refusal to accept the floodplain on Chandos is actually set 1 meter higher than it should be, overstepping mandate on design of building, not being able to open the hiking trails, open the gut responsibly. And actually, I remember from one of the reports not being able to replace their own light bulbs in their office without having a grant from the province. I think a lot of this comes down to board oversight and board leadership, and it is essential that there is a very different looking board at the Crow Valley Conservation Authority next term.
All right, thanks. Mike.
I think it's time for the township to get tough with the Crow Valley Conservation Authority. They've overstepped their mandate. They need to be backed off. We need to fight with the province and get some support, because it's not only the restrictions and stuff that they're putting on building. It's the timelines. You're looking at 6, 8, 9, 12 months waiting for a permit or somebody to show up, and a lot of times it's a rubber stamp anyway. There's no reason for the holdup when they don't even come to the property to look at it. It's just pay the money, wait a year, and get your rubber stamped permit. It doesn't make any sense. It needs to be changed. Thanks.
All right. Sorry, John, you had your hand up?
I wanted to add one thing, is that, look, I've received phone calls not only from people that I know on the lake, but because we're looking to actually rebuild our cottage probably in 2025, I've talked to numerous builders on the lake, and it's an epidemic problem with the builders. I mean, one of the things they said is that, you know, if you're ever fortunate enough to get elected, you should tackle, that would be one of the issues you need to tackle right away, because that in itself stops the building, stops the employment, the labor, and the well-being of the community. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that benefit from the building on the lake. And this is I hate to say it, if I'm not mistaken, this is a Chandos problem, if I'm not mistaken, with regards to Crow Valley's responsibility, is it not?
I don't have an answer for you, but your time is up on your 30 seconds. But
you know, it's particular to our lake, the lake that I live on. So I'm just not worried about myself. I'm down the road 2 or 3 years. But for those people that have projects that are ongoing right now, I mean, it's a big word.
Thanks, John. We've lost Roman, I believe. I'm not sure. So the rest of my team, if he pops up there in the window, make sure we add him back in, but we will keep going. I think we've got time for probably one more question, and then we'll get into our closing statements. And so, John, I just got a note here. We're having a little bit of interference from your microphone when other people are talking. So if you don't mind staying on mute when we're, yeah, Jim, you had a comment?
Yeah, can we take a 5-minute break and wait for Roman to come back?
I'll give you 2, how about, because if we're going to get through one more question and get to the closing statements.
I'll take 2.
All right. We will just wait here, and I am going to just highlight all the great things that we have going on here at the chamber. So tonight's debate is being recorded and will be posted up on our YouTube channel and at pkchamber.ca. This is debate number 8 of 9 that we are hosting this municipal election season. And so this is the conclusion of our township series. So we've been doing them back to back all week tonight. And so the 6 from the previous nights are already available on our website, pkchamber.ca, and the ones from tonight will probably be up there in the next, well, I'll be up there tomorrow. The 9th debate will be the mayoral debate for the city of Peterborough, and that one is in person at Market Hall. So if you don't mind joining us on Thursday, October 6th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Doors open at 6:30. Seating is limited, so be there at 6:30 if you want to find a seat, but we are also having that live streamed on YouTube, so feel free to watch it from there. And again, that will be recorded and rebroadcast. Actually, that one will be on your TV as well, so you catch it on cable. And we have lots of other information at pkchamber.ca on your candidates, how to vote, all that fun stuff. We just really encourage people to be engaged. One of the things I've found here too that separates these municipal elections from what we deal with federally and provincially is just how much the impact of the questions that are asked to the candidates impact what these councils do with those things. You've heard tonight from candidates who door to door, the things that they're hearing from the residents, and that becomes part of their platform. And so asking questions, I feel, is just as important as the answers that are given. And so we've posted all the contact information for everybody here. For better or for worse, please reach out. We do not have time to cover every topic. I think I still have about 10 questions left on my list here for tonight. As much as we'd love to be here till about 10:30, 11, I don't think we're going to do that. We will wrap up by about 9 o'clock. And again, any questions, please submit those through the Q&A. I have some helpers here tonight. Big thank you to Shelby Parker, who's been managing our Zoom, Jessica Gordon, who's been our timekeeper, and Stuart Harrison, who's been keeping track of the conversations and questions flowing in. I think that is a lot of me talking for about 2 minutes. Everybody's back except for Roman. So we're just going to proceed. We've got, like I said, one last question, and then we'll go into our closing statements. So the question, John, you will be first to answer this. How should the township engage local businesses to help meet climate change goals and move toward net zero emissions? John?
Joe, for those businesses that are existing, we need to perform education, which I think would be first and foremost, present options to them with how we can actually get there and how we can improve how a business can improve its own contribution. And then for any type of new development that we're actually contemplating, that the township is contemplating.
Oh, we're losing you, John. How's the weather up in North Kawartha right now? Seems to be internet is going a little downhill tonight.
I think that's more North Kawartha than the weather.
All right, John, you can start over again. You faded out on us there.
Okay, I'll make it real short because I don't want to take up people's time. Look, at existing businesses need to be made aware of what's going on within the environment that they do business in. Try to educate them with regards to new improvements that can be done, and any type of new development. First and foremost, we need to make sure that they follow the criteria with regards to what's spelled out from the township and what we want from the building codes in terms of improving the businesses that are being built for the community, so that they, I guess, lead the way with regards to providing an incentive for all of us to look at how we can improve the footprint of what's going on in the world.
All right, thanks. Jim.
Net zero emissions. I wonder if that'll be possible in Apsley and area. Yeah, when new buildings are built, they could and perhaps should be built to the best standard possible for the new climate that we're moving into. And we could use heating systems that use the ground as their supplier of heat rather than oil and gas. Perhaps we could have them use appropriate coverings over windows during the summer and perhaps also during the winter, so that heat would be used most efficiently. Put all light bulbs and any other source of energy should be as efficient as possible. And that's about it for me for now.
All right, thanks, Jim. Roman, happy to have you back. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, my one computer crapped out. I had to start the other one up. I missed a little bit of this. I want to rejoin the discussion, please.
Absolutely. So we actually took a 2-minute break, hoping that we'd get you back. And all you've missed is John and Jim answering this question. So I'm going to repeat it. You aren't next. Joe, you're next, but just for your sake there, Roman.
Yep.
How should the township engage local businesses to help meet climate change goals and move toward net zero? So Joe, you're up.
Well, I don't think a net zero emission is possible, given that we live in a rural community, because we have to drive everywhere to get to businesses or work anyway. However, I do agree with Jim that we could do anything possible, such as look into geothermal heating. I know it's more expensive than oil or propane or wood. However, it does appear to be cleaner. We can put in compact fluorescent light bulbs or LED lights to help reduce the carbon footprint. But other than that, I'm not sure what else we can do.
All right, thanks. Colin.
Yeah, so climate change is a huge challenge for every level of government across every country in the world to try to address. Again, while I've tried to keep local, I'm going to expand a bit here. We've had one significant storm, the Derecho, that had significant damage on Jack Lake and Stony Lake. But I'm even thinking down today and yesterday in Naples, Florida, one of the most affluent cities in the most affluent country in the world, can't protect itself from a sort of large storm surge that would be associated with these increased intensity storms of being caused by climate change. So as far as locally, what I'd like to see happen, we have a community improvement plan. I would like to see that expanded geographically and the rebates offered to allow more people access to it using our township's new communication strategy developed during the branding exercise.
Thanks so much. Mike.
The question was actually related to businesses, and we don't have a lot of businesses in Apsley that create a lot of pollution. I mean, most of our businesses are either food service and construction and that kind of thing. So, I mean, we don't have like a lot of industry spewing pollutants into the air in Apsley. So, I think yeah, that's one area that we can maybe address some of the problems just in the in heating costs. I mean, in buildings. So if we can encourage people to upgrade their windows and doors and insulation to save some of the the pollutants going into the air due to heating, I think that's probably 80 to 90% of Apsley or North Kawartha's pollution contribution is in heating.
All right, thanks. Roman, you're up.
Thanks, Joel. I respectfully decline to answer this question.
All right, I respect that answer. So with that, Jim, you've got to give you 30 seconds here.
Okay. One of the newest inventions is actually EV technology, and we don't have nearly enough stores or buildings with an opportunity for somebody to plug their car into while they wait or go into a store. That's also an opportunity for a business to make money because they will charge for the time that the vehicle was plugged in. We need a lot more of that in this region in order to encourage the use of non-gasoline engines and diesel.
All right. Thanks, Jim. With that said, we are moving into our closing comments. So everyone has a minute and a half to say whatever you'd like to say to close out the evening here. And Jim, I have you first.
Okay, there are a number of things I didn't get much of a chance to talk about, even with all the questions that were given. One is municipal environmental support. Regarding the environment, I feel that we need to take seriously the difficulties with our lakes and rivers and streams being polluted. One of the things I'm in full support of is assisting North Kawartha Township to help out various lake associations in purchasing boat cleaning equipment, and so that we can cut down on the pollution and invasive species that are getting into really all our lakes. Some lakes are more vulnerable to that than others. Another one is keeping our youth. One of the big problems we have, and all communities have it, is how do you encourage your youth to stay in your community? And our youth are our future workers who are needed by the contractors. I got the comment constantly from contractors, I can't get enough people to help. So while photographing at Creekside Music Festival, I was approached by some parents who asked that we consider things to do for their kids year round, not just in the winter and or summer. One of the things I thought of was skateboard activity. We don't have a skateboard park, but we do have some space that we put one in.
Jim, I'm gonna
Community
kick you out.
housing, I think we've gone through that. Okay, boy, that passed so quickly.
And again, everyone's contact information is in the chat. It's also on northkawartha.ca, and you're more than welcome to hear what everybody has to say that they can't get in here tonight. Joe, you're up.
Well, just in closing, I want to thank you, Joel, and the Peterborough and Kawartha Chamber of Commerce for putting all of this together. I'm glad we got some spirited debate going in the middle of it. I'm just going to reiterate that I want to be that voice on council that doesn't go away. And if you have an issue, bring it up to me. If I get on council, I'll bring it to council and I'll fight till I get you an answer. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to not only look at developing and growing our township, but we need to encourage people to come out and see our small businesses and stuff that exist in people's homes. Maybe we can look at setting something up for our small businesses to get out and get noticed and bring in more business and more tourism to the area. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Colin.
I'd like to start by thanking the Chamber of Commerce for providing voters with this opportunity to engage with their local candidates. Conversations like the ones we had today, the ones I've had at doors, even the impromptu ones grabbing a coffee in town, are essential in crafting the best agenda for next council. Being a councillor is a serious job with serious responsibility and serious impacts on the day-to-day lives of our ratepayers. Voters deserve a serious plan to improve their community, a plan to protect our environment, a plan to promote the local economy, a plan to provide a better living environment. Read more about my plan for Burley and Strother at colinm.ca, that's Colin with one L, m.ca, and reach out if you have any more questions after this evening's event. Thank you for watching right to the end of this very important meeting. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks. Mike.
I'd like to thank the chamber and you, Joel, for hosting this, and all the participants and people watching. And basically, I don't sound like a seasoned politician because I'm not. I will be reaching out and engaging with a lot of people in the community to get their perspective on what North of Kawartha needs to improve, and bring those things forward to council. And I will be a strong voice on council. I won't be pushed around, back down by any organizations. I will fight for the people in North Kawartha. I do hold the environment at a very high level. I know what we need to do to protect the lakes. There's nothing more important in North Kawartha than our lakes and our riverways. And also we need to promote the town, get some more pride going, local pride going in the town, and get more events going, and make it an exciting place to be, live, stay, visit. And that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Roman.
Okay, thank you. A vote for me will be a vote for the balance of, and I'm putting these in the priorities I believe are the highest to the lowest. Number one, environmental protection. 2, the maintenance of your property rights. 3, fiscal responsibility during budgeting. 4, the increased opportunity for housing. I bring 8 years of experience to the table with a good understanding of the local issues that are challenging us. On October 24th, cast your vote for me, Roman Mizik, for Councillor at Large. Thank you very much.
All right, and John.
Get off mute. So again, Joel, thank you to the chamber for hosting, and to those that are listening in. It's nice of them to take the time out to listen to what we have to say. like I've had a very successful career thus far in managing multi-million-dollar businesses across very big retailers throughout Canada. I'm at the tail end of that career. I plan to make Apsley and Chandos my permanent home in the very near future. I know what it takes to build businesses. I have the ability to be able to bring people together. Good policy is almost always developed out of compromise. You have to listen to both sides of a conversation, of a debate, to understand exactly where you need to go with regard to developing good policy. This particular county and sort of the township has much to develop over the course of the next 4 years. Housing, environmental protection, initiating business for the downtown core in Apsley, immediate solutions to our dealings with Crow Valley. I have the necessary experience from a business that I will be able to bring that to council, and I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to develop that over the course of the next 4 years. I would appreciate your support, and thank you for taking the time.
All right, thanks, John. Thanks to everybody, all the candidates here tonight for sharing your views and taking some time. Appreciate everybody in attendance for watching this and getting more engaged in the electoral process. Tonight's debate is being recorded, so pkchamber.ca. Look for it tomorrow. Share it with all your friends and family that weren't here tonight to watch it live. And as well, there's ones for 7 other townships that will be up there. Appreciate my team, Jessica, Shelby, and Stu for helping put this on tonight, and the rest of the team for the other nights when we've been doing this. And have a good night, everyone. Thanks so much.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you.